What is going on, college basketball fans? Welcome back to another video. Today we got an updated bracketology, a bracketology with Dannyology, updated about 2 weeks from our last one. So we have a few changes to this one, of course. Make sure you guys subscribe if you guys are new. Not only do we have updated bracketologies every once in a while, but we do a ton of other college basketball content here on the channel. Make sure you guys check those out and hit that sub button. And yeah, guys, let's get it started. Okay, so I'll give you guys the first two regions first, and then we'll go to the other two. Make sure you guys, even if you're just skipping through, skip to the second part so you can see the second half of the bracket. I've gotten comments on past bracketology saying, where's the other two regions, or where's this team, where's that team? And if you don't see your team and they should be in the tournament, they're probably, in the second half of the video when we're talking about the other two regions. So make sure you check the full bracket for your team where they are placed. But I'm going to break it down for you guys how I have it. My top overall seed in the South region, of course they would pick the South region in Atlanta, Georgia, close there to Auburn, is still the Auburn Tigers. Even with Johni Broome's injury, they have held up so far. Only had one game without him so far, but he's going to be out at least a couple of weeks with an ankle sprain, so they're going to need him back. He'll be back by March Madness, no problem. I still expect them to be a 1 seed. I mean, I don't really see them losing a game at home, and really on the road, they're still going to be tough to beat. They've gotten a couple good road wins already in league play and in the non-con. So yeah, I really expect them to maintain a 1 seed. Maybe not the top overall seed, because I do think some losses are coming without Johni Broome, especially when they play on the road. It's going to be a little tougher, but I still think that they will be a 1 seed and possibly still a top overall seed. And I have them playing the winner of North Alabama and Norfolk State. Two not so great teams, but some of the better teams in their leagues. As far as North Alabama, Lipscomb has been pretty hot in that league lately, in the A-Sun there, so I would look out for them. They would probably be in most people's bracketologies at this point. I decided to go with North Alabama, but it is really a toss-up on whoever wins that league in the A-Sun Conference Tournament. Number 8 seed versus our number 9 seed, we have Baylor versus Clemson. I feel like this would be an excellent game, and the amount of close games that these two teams have played in so far this year, I would expect this game to go to overtime. I'm not going to lie. It would be a thriller. Would love to see it. Perfect 8-9 matchup. Number 5 seed, we have UConn Huskies. They did take a loss recently in league play to Villanova, but other than that, they haven't lost since the Maui. Still a pretty good record. They haven't had Liam McNeely lately. He's going to be back by March 100%. So that will help a ton. So they'll be a pretty strong 5 seed as the reigning back-to-back national champions. I have them going up against High Point. And the High Point Panthers are a mid-major team that I'm actually pretty high on. And I don't know if I could consider... I would definitely consider it, but I don't know if I would pull the trigger on picking this upset if it was the 5 versus 12 matchup, but I am pretty high on the High Point Panthers. Number 4 seed, we do have Mississippi State, and Mississippi State's been playing awesome. Yeah, they did take a loss recently at home to Kentucky, but really, they've had a really good year so far. Chris Jans is an excellent head coach, super underrated head coach, and yeah, Mississippi State 4 seed. I think they deserve it at this point. And they will be going up against, out of the Sun Belt, 13-seeded Arkansas State. Now, Arkansas State beat Memphis earlier in the year. They are getting some hype, but honestly, I feel like the Sun Belt is more wide open than you might think. And I have a feeling it's going to be more of a surprise team coming out of that conference. 6 seed, I got West Virginia. The WVU Mountaineers been playing pretty good. They just took a loss on the road to Houston, and then the week before they took a loss at home to Arizona. But in between that, they got a win against Colorado. They've been dealing with some injuries, mainly to Tucker DeVries. Hopefully, he will be back by the tournament. I'm saying that as a WVU fan. But if not, still Javon Small and company. They have a pretty solid squad that I think at this point deserves a 6 seed. 11 seed, they'll be going up against Nebraska. Nebraska still getting in. on the tournament at this point. They've had a couple of tough ones, against Purdue, against Michigan State, where they got blown out pretty bad. I don't know if Nebraska ball travels very well as far as, true road games. But overall, they've had a pretty good season so far, and they do get a bid for me at this point. Next up, we got a 3 seed Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is one of my bigger risers from my last bracketology about 2 weeks ago, and they've been looking really good, man. Malik Deal, it looks like a star. They just went on the road and beat Alabama the other night in a very impressive win. That is not an easy place to play, and that is a very good team. So Ole Miss pulling off that W is really the main reason why they are one of my top risers for this bracketology and all the way up as a 3 seed. They'll be going up against the College of Charleston, South Carolina. They're out of the Coastal, and I think that's Charleston's conference to lose. There are some other contenders that could get in there, but they clearly look like the best team in that league, in my opinion. But there are going to be some other contenders, but I like Charleston out of that league right now. 7 seed, we got Louisville. Louisville is another one of my risers. They were more of a bubble team for me last time, I think around an 11 seed. They've gotten some pretty impressive wins, including a road win at Pitt. Now, Pitt fell for me quite a bit. I think they were more so a 6 seed for me. If you look over to the right side of the bracket, you'll see they're down to a 10 seed. They've been taking a lot of losses at home, 2 home losses recently. I think there are actually 4 losses in a row to Duke, Louisville, Florida State, and somebody else. It's at least 3 in a row. Not going good for Pitt Panthers right now. But they'll get Louisville as our 7. Will be going up against 10-seeded UCLA. UCLA is another team that's just not been looking too good recently. Mick Cronin, their head coach, has really called them soft and really just thrown all of his players under the bus. So I don't know how that really does for team chemistry and all that stuff. But yeah, we'll see if UCLA even makes it to the tournament. But they're going to need a big turnaround here soon, or else they will soon not be in my bracketology. Number 2 seed, we got the Marquette Golden Eagles, and Marquette's been looking really good. Definitely top team in the Big East. I think they just went to overtime with DePaul, but that was over a long break. They did come out with the W. Still a 2 seed for me. Definitely looks like the best team in the Big East this year. They'll be going up against 15-seeded Ohio, and the Ohio Bobcats are, in my opinion, maybe the best team in the MAC conference. I know there's some other teams in there, specifically Akron, that is looking pretty decent, but I like the Ohio Bobcats. But I don't know if anyone in the MAC is really getting higher than a 15 seed. Maybe a 14 seed if they heat up, but we'll see. I like the Bobcats out of the MAC. Next, let's go over to our Midwest region, where we have our top-seeded Iowa State, who will be picking the Midwest region, of course, in Indianapolis. That will be the closest trip for their fans and the players, coaches, everything. Iowa State is our top seed in that region and our 2nd overall seed, of course. They'll be going up against either Morehead State or Texas A&M Corpus Christi. And yeah, Iowa State should get the W there. Morehead State, not that great this year, but that's really anybody's league out of the Ohio Valley. But decided to go with Morehead State. They got the best record so far in that league. Oklahoma as our 8 seed. They probably should have fell more, but honestly, with their quad 1 record, it's better than a lot of the teams seeded below them. And, they've been losing a lot since they got into SEC play. But that is a tough league, man. And they can turn it back around. They got off to a really good start, which is still holding some value for me. And that quad 1 record is still holding some value to me because it is higher. Like I said, it is a better quad 1 record than a lot of the teams that are still below them. So I still got them as an 8 seed, but they're on thin ice. Like they're holding on to an 8 seed by a thread right now, and really holding on to being in the tournament by a thread. So let's hope that they can get it back together. If you are an Oklahoma fan, number 9 seed, they'll be going up against North Carolina. Where North Carolina, it looked like in my last bracketology, they were one of my first teams out. They weren't in the tournament. They've been winning recently. Barely, but they've been winning recently. And they found themselves back into the tournament here as a 9 seed. Ian Jackson, specifically, the freshman for North Carolina, has been going bananas recently, and that's just another guard that they have that can do some damage. Ian Jackson, of course, R.J. Davis, Seth Trimble, and Elliot Cadeau. 4 guards that could really hurt you. Elliot Cadeau, more of a playmaker, but they could all score. They can all get their own bucket. 5 seed in this region is Michigan, and yeah, Michigan's looked really good so far. I feel like a 5 seed is perfect for the Wolverines at this point in the season. Yeah, looking really good. They definitely have a chance at the Big Ten, but right now the favorites are looking like Michigan State and Illinois. Drake as our 12 seed. Yes, I do have Drake here. Not as an at-large, but the winner of the Missouri Valley. The Missouri Valley actually looks pretty competitive, and we all thought it was going to be between Drake and Bradley, which Drake actually won that head-to-head matchup a couple of weeks ago, which is why I have Drake in over Bradley. But there are some sleepers in that conference, like Northern Iowa, like Belmont. Definitely some sleepers in that conference, so look out for them, guys. They could be a huge bid steal whenever we get to the conference tournaments. Memphis as our 4 seed. Yeah, Memphis keeps winning out. They haven't taken a loss yet in league play there in the American. They have a good quad 1 record, some impressive wins early in the season. As long as they can keep winning in the American, they're going to maintain a top 5 seed, I believe. I think they're a 4 seed right now. 13 seeded Furman. I like Furman out of their league a lot. And yeah, they've actually been playing pretty good so far. 6-seeded Arizona, one of my bigger risers from my last bracketology. They've been killing it lately. Undefeated 5-0 in the Big 12 Conference. That is how you jump up from, I think they were one of the first teams out, or they were an 11 seed in my last bracketology, all the way up to a 6 seed now. So look at Arizona making a big turnaround to their season. They could end up with like a 5 or 4, I mean, if they win the Big 12 conference or the Big 12 tournament and finish top 3 in the conference like they are right now, they could easily get a higher seed than even a 5 or a 4. They're really turning it around and looking really good. New Mexico as an 11 seed, getting an at-large out of the Mountain West Conference. They've been playing really good lately. The Pit, that's a tough place to play. Definitely a bucket list place for me to go watch a game at. Beat San Diego State there, and I believe they have Boise State tonight. So that will be a big game, and yeah, I expect New Mexico to get that one done as well. 3 seed, we do have Alabama and the Alabama Crimson Tide. They just take that loss to Ole Miss, but I still have them here as a 3 seed. Good quad 1 record. They played a lot of quad 1 games already, and that was their first loss in league play. Still think Alabama is a fantastic team. They definitely still deserve a 3 seed. 14 seed, we got St. Thomas out of the Summit League. And this is a different one because I actually forgot the H in Thomas, I believe. I believe there's an H in St. Thomas, the city in Minnesota, I think. But St. Thomas, it's a little bit different than I usually go out of the Summit League. I've been going with South Dakota State, who has been a really good team, but St. Thomas actually beat South Dakota State, I think by 1 point. That was a really good game. And yeah, so I'm going to go with St. Thomas out of that league now, and I think that they would be a sleeper, pull off an upset. Maybe not against Alabama. They might need a better draw than that. But yeah, look out for St. Thomas, man. Georgia as our 7th seed. Georgia's been playing really good in conference play so far. I know they just took a loss, but they've been looking really good, man. I think that they've rose up to at least a 7 seed at this point in the season. 10-seeded Pitt. Pitt just, they've really fell off recently. They're going to need a big bounce back because if not, they're going to fall completely out of the tournament. But they're here as a 10 seed right now. And Oregon as our 2 seed. Oregon finds a way to find a way. Dana Altman is maybe the most underrated coach in college basketball. What he's doing with this Oregon team is very impressive, and they definitely deserve a 2 seed at this point in time. And they'll be going up against Purdue Fort Wayne out of their league. Now let's get to the next 2 regions. All right, next 2 regions, regions 3 and 4. Third region is our East region in Newark, New Jersey, where the Duke Blue Devils will select to play in the East, and they'll be going up against 16-seeded Marist. And Marist actually might be the strongest 16 seed. I mean, nothing I don't think Duke can't handle, but just to point that out there, they're a pretty strong 16 seed. By the end of the season, they might be a 15 seed if they, assuming they can win their league. But they'll be going in the second round. We got, I don't know what I'm saying. They'll be going up against, in the second round, probably the winner of Duke Marist will go up against St. John's or Maryland in an 8-9 game. This is one of my favorite 8-9 games from this bracket. I think St. John's versus Maryland would be an excellent game. I would probably lean St. John's in that one. But Zuby Ejiofor versus Derek Queen would be awesome to watch down low. But St. John's got a lot of really good guards, which is why I would lean more towards them. But yeah, that would be our matchup there. 5 seed Texas A&M. Texas A&M, you could argue they could deserve a 4 seed. 4 or 5, I feel like, is pretty fair. I was between putting Mississippi State or Texas A&M at the 4 line. I decided to put Mississippi State at the 4, Texas A&M at the 5. Let me know how you guys would do that. Would you switch them? Would you have them both at the 4 line? If you do, who would you bring to a 5 line that I have as a 4? St. Louis as our 12 seed. So here's the thing. I actually don't have anyone out of the A10 getting an at-large bid at this point in the season, right? Dayton has looked really bad recently, losing 3 games in the A10 conference already to UMass, George Washington, and was it George Mason as well, I believe. So Dayton no longer is getting an at-large bid, which means the conference tournament winner in the A10 now gets a bid, and I actually decided to go with St. Louis. St. Louis has been playing really good. We didn't get to see Robbie Avita in the tournament last year at Indiana State. I want to see him and the St. Louis Billikens team in the tournament this year. I have a feeling the only way we're going to get there is if they can win the A10 tournament, which is going to be a very competitive tournament this year. I mean, the A10 is stacked. I could see, this is how many teams out of the A10 I could see. St. Louis, I could see St. Joseph's, I could see Dayton, of course, VCU, of course, Rhode Island, even Loyola Chicago on an outside chance. They haven't been playing as good recently, but that's a possibility. The A10 is stacked, man, and yeah, St. Louis is who I decided to go with. I think it would be fun. Kansas has our 4 seed. Kansas, yeah, I think 4 seed, pretty good. I didn't really want to make them fall too hard for losing at Hilton Coliseum against Iowa State. I mean, I didn't expect them to win that game, but I think they might have been a 3 seed for me last bracketology. They might have been a 4, so they might be staying put since a couple weeks ago. They'll be going up against the winner of the Ivy League, which is the Princeton Tigers here, and Princeton looks really good. I think they're definitely the favorites out of the Ivy League. You got some other teams like Yale, Columbia in the mix. I go Princeton. Wisconsin here as our 6 seed. Feels like a good spot for them right now as 6. They'll be going up against the winner of the last 4 end game between Central Florida and the Texas Longhorns. 2 bubble teams right now. Central Florida has some really, really good wins and then some really bad losses where they just got beat pretty hard. So I feel like being on the bubble right now is right for them. They're going to really need a good rest of the season to really solidify themselves as a tournament team. Same with Texas. They did get a good win over Oklahoma, which actually got them into this last 4 game. Michigan State here as our 3 seed. Michigan State, undefeated so far in the Big Ten Conference, looking really good. Just got another good win against Penn State. 100% deserves the 3 seed with their quad 1 record. They have actually a pretty high net ranking. Playing fantastic, undefeated in the Big Ten. Yep, Michigan State is a 3. They'll be going against UMass Lowell as our 14 seed. 7 seed, we got Missouri. Missouri just got a massive win that I haven't seen really many people talking about against Florida. I was very impressed with that one. They got out ahead early. Florida was playing horrible in the first half. Could not shoot the ball. Couldn't really score the ball at all. But Florida tried to come back. Maybe some help by the refs. They were at home. But Missouri was able to hold on there and get it done. That was really impressive and jumped them up to a 7 seed, solidifying themselves as a tournament team at this point in the season for me. San Diego State as our 10 seed. That would be an awesome first round matchup between Missouri and San Diego State. I don't know who I would go in that one because Missouri is, it's hard because is Caleb Grill going to be that guy in the tournament to go crazy? Maybe, but I feel like San Diego State's maybe the more consistent team with their defense. So that would be a tough one. I would probably lean more towards the consistent team in San Diego State. 2-seeded Kentucky. Kentucky playing really good recently. They got a good win at home against Texas A&M, I believe, the other day. They deserve a 2 seed at this point. Long Island out of their league. I think the 15 seed would be pretty good for them because I think Long Island made the tournament a couple years ago as a 16 seed. So moving up in the world. Now to our final region, the West region, where our final 1 seed has to go west, and that is Tennessee Volunteers. Tennessee, yeah, they did take their first loss to Florida. Yes, they did get beat up pretty bad, but that's still their only loss on the season. They bounced back with a win against, who was that? Was it Oklahoma they beat? Everybody's beating up on Oklahoma. And they'll be going against 16-seeded Colgate. Now, the Patriot League is up for grabs. I believe Colgate and maybe one other team are the only teams that are above 500. And they are barely, like, 1 game above 500. Not in league play, but just, like, their overall record. So, the Patriot League is going to be anybody's league when we come to conference tournament time. So, look out for a bid steal out of the Patriot League. But almost certainly, whoever comes out is going to get a 16 seed. St. Mary's as our 8 seed. I feel like St. Mary's is pretty underrated. I see them a lot in bracketologies as a 10 or 11 or more of a bubble team. I feel like they've done enough. They actually have a pretty good quad 1 record. I think they're like 4-2 in quad 1 games. I think it warrants, an 8 seed at least. So I like St. Mary's here. Texas Tech as our 9 seed. Texas Tech, they probably could have got a higher seed, probably like a 7 at least, if they would have been able to pull off that game against Iowa State at home. That was a very close game. Went to overtime. Took a buzzer beater to get to overtime for Iowa State. Texas Tech had that one, man. That would have been huge, but I think they'll get another big win. Whether, I'm not sure exactly their schedule, but if Kansas comes to town, if Houston comes to town, they'll get another big win somewhere along the lines. They'll solidify themselves as a tournament team because they are that good. 5 seed, we have our Houston Cougars, who I just mentioned could be that team that Texas Tech can get a big one on. Houston undefeated in the Big 12. There are 3 teams undefeated in the Big 12 right now: Iowa State, Houston, and Arizona. And Houston's been playing fantastic. They're one of my bigger risers on this bracketology, and they've been one of my bigger risers, like in my power rankings, all that stuff. They're up to a 5 seed, and really you could argue that they deserve a 4 seed. The only thing holding them back from that is their quad 1 record. They just now got their first quad 1 win against West Virginia. Before that, they were 0-3 in quad 1 games. So they'll have more quad 1 opportunities, like against the Texas Tech, like against the Kansas, Iowa State. So those are going to be massive games for Houston as far as their seeding this year in the tournament. They'll be going against Liberty. I actually really like this Liberty team. I got them as a 12 seed. They've been playing pretty good, and I have a hard time believing they won't come out of their league there in the Conference USA. There are some sleeper teams. I like Middle Tennessee State a lot. I could see them being able to pull it off in the tournament over Liberty, but right now Liberty is for sure the favorite in Conference USA. Purdue as our 4 seed. Purdue's been playing awesome recently, blowing out teams too, so they're a riser for me. I think last time I might have had them as a 6 or a 7. They're up to a 4 seed. They'll be going up against 13-seeded McNeese State, who we all thought was going to be one of the better mid-majors in college basketball this year. Slightly disappointing, but nonetheless, they're still the favorite in their league. Gonzaga here as our 6th seed. And Gonzaga, you could argue they could maybe be a 5 seed or maybe even a 4. Like, I've seen people have them higher, but I think a 6 seed is where they should be right now. They'll be going up against UC Irvine, who actually gets an 11 seed. the winner of UC Irvine and Creighton here as some of our last teams in at large. 3-seeded Illinois will be going up against 14-seeded Grand Canyon. That would be a fantastic game, and I would be worried if I was an Illinois fan because that has to be the worst 14 seed you can draw because Grand Canyon hasn't gotten off to a great start, but they do have the type of players, that can get it done. And they got it done last year in March Madness, made it to the second round, and pushed Alabama, who made it to the Final Four, down to the final minutes of that game. If they wind up winning their league, and they do end up with like a 13-14 seed, I would be terrified if I had got the draw to play Grand Canyon in the first round. Utah State as our 7 seed. They fell a little bit after that loss to UNLV, but I still do believe they still deserve a 7 seed. That's not a bad seed. Still the top team here in the Mountain West at this point. So, 7 seed for Utah State. Vanderbilt as a 10 seed. They're kind of on the bubble, but we'll see. They're definitely going to need to get a signature win at some point in the year, but they're going to have so many opportunities for that in the SEC. Got to get one, though. Florida here is our 2 seed, even with that loss to Mizzou. I still have Florida here as a 2 seed, but another loss could definitely make them fall to a 3 or 4. And then they will be going up against Northern Colorado out of their league. Northern Colorado, scary mid-major, in my opinion. I think Florida would handle them pretty easily, blow them out. But, the right matchup, Northern Colorado, could definitely be dangerous. And then, our first 4 teams out, I think I actually have listed 6 teams there. 6 or 7. Oh, yeah, it's 7. Cincinnati is my first team out. They've been horrible in league play. Are they ready for the Big 12 Conference? They're so hyped up in the preseason throughout the first few weeks of the season when they were playing nobodies. And, shit hit the fan quick for Cincinnati. Ohio State, staying in the same state. Ohio State, first team out. They're like 2-7 in quad 1 games, but that's a lot of quad 1 games, and they do have 2 good wins there. So you could argue Ohio State should get an at-large, maybe even over Creighton or Central Florida or Texas. They're in the mix, though. They're right there, man. Boise State needs to get some signature wins here if they want to try to get an at-large bid, but they're right there. They're right on the cusp. Penn State almost did it, man. They almost pulled off a signature win against Michigan State. They already do have one good one against Purdue where they dominated that game. That is going to age wonderfully for them. Almost got another one against Michigan State. They would have for sure been in the tournament in this bracketology if they had. Villanova got their signature win against UConn. Now they need to be more consistent because they went back and lost to St. John's after that, which is a quad 1 loss. So not a horrible one. They just need to beat up on, everyone in the Big East not named Marquette, UConn, or St. John's. Creighton maybe, but they need to get some wins. Georgetown, same thing. They were looking good for a little bit, and then not so great. So they got to get it back together. But I do think that they can get in. They just got to bounce back right now. And then Iowa's one of my first 4 teams out as well, or one of my first 7 teams out, I guess. I feel like this is where Iowa's going to be all year. Is it possible they could get in the tournament? Sure, but I don't expect them to. I feel like they're going to be right around the bubble all season long. Win one, lose one, win one, lose one. I just feel like that's how some of these Big Ten teams go throughout the season, and Iowa is going to be that team. That's kind of where I'm at with them. But let me know what you guys think about the updated bracketology. And who should be seated higher? Who should be seated lower? Did I snub anybody? Should somebody else be in the first 4 teams out? Let me know down below in the comments section, guys. And guys, tons of other college basketball content on the channel. Make sure you guys go check it out and hit that subscribe button if you guys enjoy. And guys, thank you so much for watching.